So, I've been away for a little while. Took a little bit of a sabbatical here from these little videos, these morning videos that I do. It's again morning time here, having my morning coffee, and I need to talk about. I did a video a while back about knowing your candidates and during the after the elections of the NDP with their communist sympathizers that are now sitting in the provincial legislature over there. But I want to talk about the leader of the federal NDP party, Thomas Mulcair. Because I've been watching his campaign and all these, extravagant promises that he keeps making. But more importantly, whether I hope that Canadians are smart enough and recognize exactly, his strategy, what he's doing. National childcare. He announced that he was going to have this, fantastic national childcare system across the country. And when Quebec came out and said, no, look, we've already got our own childcare thing. We don't want your childcare thing. Oh, all of a sudden he changed his position. Like, look, man, now people out there, you may agree or disagree with Stephen Harper and the Conservatives, but you have to give credit where credit's due. At least Stephen Harper has always, relatively remained true to his convictions and his principles. When he says something, he stands by it, and he does what he says, and he says what he does. He promised, changes to the Firearms Act. He did that. He promised, easing self-defense laws. He did that. Look, Thomas Mulcair is in my mind, a political opportunist of the vulturistic sort. Look, he supports a niqab. He supports the court a week ago on niqabs, and now that the polls in Quebec, because 91% of Quebecers do not support the niqab or the hijab or the burqa in Canadian citizenship ceremonies, all of a sudden now he's flip. Well, now he doesn't necessarily agree that these people should be allowed to cover their faces during a Canadian citizenship ceremony. But there's a real dark side to Tom Mulcair that unfortunately the mainstream media it doesn't fit their narrative because they just hate Harper. The CBC, it's unbelievable. We've got the CBC that does nothing but try to, push forward their left-wing political agenda. Look, Stephen Harper made cuts to the CBC. The CBC has lost 40% of its audience. They are unsustainable. If this was a private broadcaster in the, in the free market, they'd be bankrupt. They're not sustainable. They take $1 billion a year to push a left-wing political agenda. Stephen Harper, so now you've got Justin Trudeau out there and Tom Mulcair, well, we're going to increase spending to the CBC. Hey, it's a failed business model. They're sinking. You're gonna sink, taxpayers' money into an outlandish, but now you see where we're going with this. They make these left-wing parties make these promises to increase spending for the CBC. So what does the CBC do? They act as the mouthpiece to forward the left-wing agenda to be able to skew, the elections so that they can get these left-wing parties in power so that they can get more jobs and more free money. And if you look into the CBC and the parties and the booze and the debauchery and the Gian Gameshi and Evan Solomon with his art scandal, it's just plagued with outrageous stories. But anyway, get back to Thomas Mulcair. So, I think it's important that we know Thomas Mulcair. I want to show you a picture here. I don't know Stephen Harper rubs elbows with people that have, these major fraud cases, I got to show you this. Here's a picture of Thomas Mulcair and a fellow named Tony Arcuso. Now, I don't know if you know Tony Arcuso. Tony Arcuso right now is in front of the courts. He has 900... Yes, folks, 900 accusations ranging from gangsterism, money laundering, fraud, a wide array of financial corruption. Probably one of the largest scandals in Quebec history. And look who's smiling. Look who's smiling standing beside him. Tom Mulcair. Tom Mulcair is happily smiling beside a guy that is now in front of the courts on 900 various accusations of fraud. But we don't hear about this. The CBC's not talking about this, are they? Did you know that this picture existed? And this is actually we did have At one point, a journalist that actually did a piece on this. But there's a couple other things too that I want to talk about. Thomas Mulcair in 2005 lost in front of the courts because this is shocking. We hear about the old stock Canadian. I call it the old stock Canadian gate. Absolutely ludicrous. The first person that said old stock was the liberal Stéphane Dion, and then Justin Trudeau's used it. And all of a sudden, Stephen Harper uses the word old stock Canadian, and it's this big scandal, don't we have anything better to talk about than this stupid thing that the Liberals actually coined, like a phrase that the Liberals actually coined themselves? Justin Trudeau's outrage, old stock Canadians, Harper's a racist. Come, get off the pot. Let's talk about real stuff. Let's talk about who these people are that you are pushing their agenda out into the Canadian public, trying to advance their causes so that they can get elected, so that you can get an increase in your annual budget. Makes me want to puke. It's absolutely disgusting. So anyway, I want to read this to you because in 2005, our friend Thomas Mulcair was actually found guilty, and I'm going to read this to you. It's in French. Now, please, ladies out there, don't judge me. I'm going to say a very disgusting word that I don't necessarily like, but for the purpose of this video and understanding, who you're voting for, it has to be said. So once when Thomas Mulcair was in the Quebec provincial legislature, he said to Yves Duhem, which was a Parti Québécois provincial MP, he said to him, "J'ai hâte de te voir en prison, vieille plate." Now I'm going to do a literal translation of this. The literal translation of this is, "I can't wait to see you in prison, you old cunt." This is a guy that's running for the Prime Minister of Canada, telling people, "I can't wait to see you in prison, you old cunt." He was sued and subsequently had to pay $95,000. But nobody's talking about those things, are they? They're not talking about the 11 times that Thomas Mulcair, remortgaged his home. I don't know if fluctuations in interest rates, so phenomenally, the gap between the interest rates so phenomenally, exorbitant that, it would merit remortgaging your home 11 times. Not once or twice, 11 times. And you want this guy running the country's finances? Corporate tax rates. He's out there giving, we're going to raise corporate taxes. And then a journalist a journalist says to him, well, what's the corporate tax rate? And he doesn't even know the damn tax rate. I'm going to raise corporate taxes, but I don't know what the tax rate is? Are you insane, man? It's mind-blowing. So, I really, 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 really struggle, and you may disagree with Harper and all these other things, but at least the man, when he says something or does something, he stands by what he says. He's a man of conviction. This stuff is it's outrageous. He says these things, he's out there making all these promises, and I cannot fathom Canadian people, wanting to give more money to the government. Thomas Mulcair is promising shit that we can't pay for, that eventually somebody's going to have to, and that person's going to be you, the guy that's going to work, and it's coming off your paycheck. Is this what you really want? You want higher taxes? You want to give more money to the government? It blows my mind that people would actually vote for people that want to increase their taxes and give more of their hard-earned money away to these people. Just blows my mind. They came out with this LEAP manifesto. Have you guys seen this LEAP manifesto? It's communism. It's pure, unadulterated communism. And the think tank or the brains of the NDP party are behind it. And it's pure communist. And he's out there, and I can't even believe that this guy is even remotely in the polls. Okay, you don't like Stephen Harper, I get it. But how can you vote for more taxes and all of these promises, these extravagant promises that this guy's making across the country? My God. And then when he sees in the polls, starting to go down a little bit, starting to slip, better flip-flop and change my position again. How can you trust this guy? It's just absolutely outrageous. And Canadians, unfortunately, are buying into this. We're not talking about the real issues. We're not talking about, they they were going on and on and on about how, the deficit, Harper's government's a deficit. Jeez, when the Conservatives were in a minority position, do your damn homework before you start spewing off these ridiculous claims. When Stephen Harper's government was in a minority position, they were forced to run a deficit by the NDP and the Liberals, or they threatened to bring the government down. The deficits that Stephen Harper inherited came from Liberal governments. The deficit that they ran were forced by Liberals that were threatening, to bring down the government. And here it is again. True to Liberal fashion, Justin Trudeau comes out yesterday and says, if Stephen Harper is reelected, we're going to bring the government down. Like, who the hell are you, man? Like, Canadians vote. If it's Stephen Harper that wins, that's what Canadians want. You're going to bring who the hell are you? Who do you think you are to bypass our democratic process of people voting for their particular party? Okay. Rant over. I apologize, but it's just, it's absolutely shocking. And you've got all these, the Toronto Star. I call them the Communist Star. It's the stuff that they come out with is absolutely disgusting. I mean, if you want to have a good image of what real journalism versus this crass, flagrant, flamboyant, left-wing crap that the Canadian media is spewing, go on to Russia Today, RT. It's called RT. Go on that and compare, news. Okay, compare headlines. You want unbiased journalism? Go to RT. Don't go to the CBC. Have a great day.